Michael Chigani, and this is Straight Talk with John Tsang. John Tsang, thank you very much. You were the former financial secretary. Now you're running for chief executive. Now, my first question is going to be the most difficult question of the whole show. If you get elected as the chief executive, will you shave off your mustache as a sacrifice to unite Hong Kong society?
Well, actually, I would do anything to unite Hong Kong society. But this mustache has been with me since college, and it's not something that I would shave off.
Not even to say, I'll shave off my mustache, please unite society. This is my gesture.
If that is indeed the outcome, of course I will.
You will do that.
If that is the outcome, I will do that. But this is something that's been with me for a very, very long time.
But you're willing to sacrifice it?
Anything.
Well, the viewers will remember that.
I would do anything in order to achieve that.
All right, okay. Now I'm going to move on to other hardball questions. This one is a hardball question. You've been asked this many times before. You have not given a straight answer yet. This is straight talk. It's been said many times that you have received Beijing's red light against running, and you have said some friends have told you to run, some friends have told you not to run. When you were asked whether those people have told you not to run, whether they were from the central government, you have not answered that question. But I think you need to answer that question to let Hong Kong people know what they feel up there. You should answer that question, whether you had been told not to run or suggested to you not to run.
Well, I mean, as I have said before, and I maintain the same position, different people have told me different things.
But were they from the central government? Or representing the central government?
I will tell you, I mean, different people have told me different things from different sectors of society and different sectors of government. And, you know, finally, this is my own decision. This is my own decision.
It's your decision to run.
This is my decision to run. Of course it has to be my decision. This is something that would have a huge impact on me, huge impact on my family. And this is basically my desire to service the Hong Kong people. And I know this is going to be difficult. Why have I chosen that? Because that has always been my desire.
But do you think, Mr. Chung, if you did receive a red light, and if you get elected as chief executive, then surely your relationship with the central government would not be as smooth because they didn't want you to run.
Well, you can say that, but indeed, I have spoken to different people, and I find a balance in what people say to me, and make a decision based on what I understand, and based on what I'm willing to sacrifice.
Okay, now, you know, the Democratic Party met with you on Sunday, and they said that they may nominate you because the liaison office has not supported you. And so they say they will consider nominating you to run as chief executive. Do you think that that is a valid reason to get nominated, that the liaison office has not supported you? What they suggest is, if they have not supported you, and that's what they said, you have told them that they have not supported you, that suggests that there was a red light.
I hope that is not the only reason that the Democratic Party is supporting me. I've spent a long time speaking to them about different issues, and you know, we have, and I hope that I was able to convince them to support me. I haven't received their support yet. In terms of
they said they may nominate you.
They may and they may not. And you know, the real thing is when they sign off on the nomination forms. This is what I'm looking for.
But the nominations have started. Do you think you will, started today, do you think you will get the 150?
Actually, the nominations have started a while ago, except that on the 14th of this month.
Today.
You can submit. You can actually submit the form to the election office.
Oh, okay.
We've been working hard, try to get nominations from different sectors of society, because I think it's really important to get support from the whole full political spectrum to indicate, to demonstrate the support we have from the entire community of Hong Kong.
Okay, just one last question on this, whether, there's a red light or a green light. You did say some time back that one of the reasons you decided to run was because Mr. Xi Jinping had shaken your hand. Did you see that as a green light?
I see that as one of, when I spoke about that, I said, I was asked time and time again whether that was a key factor. I said that's one of the factors.
But why is that
because
a factor?
that indicate encouragement, that it indicate a friendly disposition. So, I mean, that is one of the factors among many. And I have find a balance of all those different reasons before I make the decision.
You think that Mr. Xi Jinping shaking your hand is a friendly gesture?
Sure.
And that convinced you that should be one of the reasons why you
I have never said that is the only factor that had.
But it was, you see that as a gesture?
There's a gesture that had, in the total order of things, that I have made my decision based on.
In a way, it was a green light.
Of that. I wouldn't go as far as that, but I think that is one of the factors that I have taken into consideration.
Okay. Now, I just want to you to look at a video clip. It's a very short one, right over there.
You asked me whether I agree with my boss. You always agree with your boss. No question about that.
That was a famous quote. You asked me whether I agree with my boss. You always agree with my boss. That was said during the press conference about the Wang Chao housing estate, which was in America. You were the financial secretary at the time. Everybody has wondered what you meant by that. I mean, to me, it was very clear. You were saying that, sure, you work for somebody, you agree with that person, right? And this is, to me, it was a very clear, very basic answer, but people made a lot out of it. So I just want to ask you this. If you do agree with the chief executive, Mr. C.Y. Leung, you always agree with him, does that suggest that you have agreed with all his policies?
In government,
yes.
As you know, we will discuss in depth all policies, all the different measures that we would put out. During these discussions, they could be heated, they could be very argumentative and so forth. But once we agree to a conclusion, we abide by it. That is the boss's decision, and then we'll comply with it. So in that way, as in government, you would agree with your boss in terms of the policies that are set out.
You didn't say it with any kind of cynicism, right?
I'm not a cynical person, Michael.
You
know me for so long.
No, I've known you for a long time. So what you meant was when you said you always agree with your boss, that statement was intended to mean that after a lot of deliberations, a decision is made and you agree with that decision.
Of course.
Okay.
That is how government operates.
Sure. Now, but then, can I ask you this? If you become the chief executive, you say you always agree with your boss, so you've agreed with your boss, with C.Y. Leung, after a lot of deliberations. Would you have done many of those things in a different way? If you become the chief executive, you do it in a different way?
Perhaps.
In what areas?
But I don't think I would want to go into details. I mean, that is part of the confidence that we undertake as a public servant. But there are times and occasions that we have disagreed on a lot of issues, and we have had discussions on those issues.
You and Mr. C.Y. Leung?
Among other people. I mean, in government, we have free discussions on a whole host of issues, and we do discuss with our hearts wide open, and we talk to each other about that. But once agree, becomes a government policy. we
follow
stand
that.
behind it.
That's fair enough. Now, before the break, I just want to ask you, there's been some reports in the past few days that Mr. Zhang Dejiang, a very senior government official, was in Shenzhen talking to people in the business sector and so on, saying that the Politburo, the Chinese government, central government, has decided that Carrie Lam, one of your opponents in the chief executive election, is their choice. How does that make you feel?
I have read the same reports that you have in the media. I mean, the central government has always indicated they would want to have an open, fair election in Hong Kong.
But they said they support Carrie Lam.
I'm just doing my bit, and I'm going to continue to solicit support from different sectors of society, and hopefully I would get enough nominations to get me to the second stage.
Do you think that the liaison office should do that, or the central government should publicize a preferred choice?
I don't know if that is indeed the truth. So I don't really
doubt that?
I don't want to comment on speculations, because these are all speculations. It's not, I mean, it's been reported in the press as so, and so this is not something that I would like to comment on.
Okay, quick break, see you soon, don't go away. Thanks for sticking around. This is Straight Talk with Mr. John Tsang. Mr. John Tsang running for Chief Executive. Thank you very much again for being here. Before the break, I asked you, there have been reports that the liaison office had been helping Carrie Lam, and that Mr. Zhang Dejiang had told business leaders that they support Carrie Lam too. You said it was speculation, but it's been so widely reported that it's really not speculation. It is the truth. How do you face this truth?
A widely speculated statement is still a speculation, but if that indeed is the case, I just have to work that much harder.
You must work that much harder to fight. How do you work that much harder? Win public support, win hearts and minds.
My entire campaign is based on two tracks. One track is to solicit support for those with a vote in the election committee. And the other part is to solicit support from the people of Hong Kong. As you can see, my entire campaign is based on that. And I think we've been working hard, and we've been successful in getting support from both tracks.
What do you think, Mr. Zhang? Win support from the people. I mean, I tend to believe that those reports are accurate, that the central government has made a choice, and that choice is Carrie Lam. If you win, and your popularity is much higher than the others now at this point, everybody knows that, your popularity is much higher. If you win the popularity stakes, and if you also win the chief executive election, do you think you will have a strained relationship with the central government because they didn't really want you?
I mean, that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's really not the moment that the election takes place, that a decision is made, who wins or loses. It's really the 5 years that comes after that. Because when you're campaigning, you're talking about politics. After you have campaigned, after you get into office, you're really dealing with governance. And governance requires the support of the people. And that's why I've been working very hard to really get the support of the people, to get the trust. We try to rebuild trust in government, because in the past few years, that has been lacking.
Sure.
And so this is a very important mission of mine.
But would you have a strained relationship with the central government?
I'm sure we can. I mean, I'm not sure whether you said it is totally true, but you know, this is something we all need to work on. A relationship also is based on trust, And we need to work on that. And it's not something.
They say they don't trust you.
And it's not that is given. It's not
they
something.
They say they don't
it's not
trust
a
you. Why is that?
I'm not sure what way. I mean, do you have any facts?
No, I don't.
That? You're speculating, right? You're speculating that, and so this is. I mean, we're speculating upon speculations. I think we need to look at the facts and look at the different relationships, and as well as the different constitutional relationships that is involved in this whole exercise.
Okay, now I asked this question of Carrie Lam as well, one of your rivals, and I'll ask you the same question. If you win this election and you go and see the central government, you go and see Xi Jinping, you have to tell him that we are a very divided society. You have said that as well. We are a very divided society. What will you say to him about how we can heal this society?
I think a clear demonstration of starting this process. This is not something that can be done overnight. It's going to require time. It's going to require some patience. I think a starting point would be the election of a chief executive that is endorsed, supported, and trusted by the people. And then as the chief executive, there are things that you can do to fortify the trust in you. For example, the appointment of capable, credible, principal officials. And then you have set out policies that your government will not be biased. You would listen to the views of different sectors in society, different parts of the political spectrum. I mean, this is the minimum that is required of a society in unity.
Sure.
I think we need to start rebuilding that.
Okay, now build up unity in society. Let me just show you another very quick clip.
I care about young people, and I actually listen, despite some people's attacks that I don't listen. I actually listen. But my strongest strength is I act.
Now, that was Mrs. Carrie Lam. She was here last week, and I asked her why she thinks she will make a better chief executive than the other candidates. And she says, well, she cares about young people, but most importantly, she acts. Now, I want to ask you the same question. Why do you think you can be a better chief executive than the other candidates?
I've been in government for a long time. I understand the operation of the government. I can operate. I can implement. I can facilitate. But what is more important is my ability to listen to people, not just young people. I listen to everyone in our society, and I have the tolerance and acceptance of people. I think is fundamental in any kind of communication and so forth. I make use of all the different channels to listen to people. I've mentioned in some program, there's a verse in one of my favorite songs that says, the words
you
of
like
the
Simon and
prophet,
Garfunkel, right?
among other people, the words of the prophets are written on the subway wall. Our subways are clean, so we don't have graffiti.
I wouldn't say that now because of what happened last week, but that's
but we don't have the graffitis.
Right.
But what we do have is the internet. We have the Facebook. All the messages are there. And I've been working, commenting, replying, communicating with people on the internet,
well, there's no
listening
doubt
to their views.
There's no doubt that you are, all opinion polls show that you are the most popular, and I guess that counts for something. Now, you have mentioned that you need to get the political reforms underway if you win as chief executive, and you've shifted slightly on your position, but now you're saying that the August 31st, 2014 framework that Beijing has provided, which was voted down by LegCo, that you need not to have to stick to that thing. You need to have a public consultation and see where you can go from there. And if something new comes out of it, you'll present that to the central government, right? Supposing you go to the central government, and I asked this of Judge Wu, who's also running, if you go to the central government, you sit down with Mr. Xi Jinping and says, let's change the August 31st framework, and he says to you, no, this is what we gave you, Hong Kong people rejected it, you take the same thing and stick with that. What would you do?
What I have said is that the August 31st statement is something, is a decision, is a policy, is law, and it's not something that we can avoid. But when we do our public consultation, obviously we listen to everybody from the entire society of Hong Kong.
They said they're not going to change it.
Hold on. I think what we need to do is to reflect the views of the people in Hong Kong and then report that accurately to the Central People's Government.
Was it reported inaccurately? Because a report was given to them after Occupy.
I know, but we need to do that. I think this is fundamental, and this is something that that we need to do. We report that, and and we have to await the analysis, the acceptance of the
if they don't change
central
it, what
government.
Are they going to do, Mr.
I mean,
John?
that is hypothetical, but I think the central government is not something that is inflexible. I'm sure they would have an understanding, they would appreciate what is here. The Central People's Government wants universal suffrage in Hong Kong. And this is something they want to achieve and we want to achieve. And this is totally the aspiration of Hong Kong people. And more importantly, with universal suffrage in the election, in the selection of the chief executive, you have a mandate. And I think the situation would change drastically.
If you have a mandate.
When you have a mandate.
Okay, I've just got 1 minute left. Just want to ask one last question. There is this civic nomination thing going on, and long-hair Leung Kok Hong has said he will try to run if he gets 38,000. That's 1% of eligible voters. So far, you've got the most votes in that. Now, I just want to ask you this. Will you also do what Longhair is going to do, that if you don't get the 38,000 nominations, civic nominations, you won't run?
I don't think that is very meaningful.
You don't think that's meaningful?
I don't think that exercise is meaningful. It's really not something that's representative of the entire society of Hong Kong.
So you're going to disregard that?
No, I don't need that to give me the mandate. I've spoken with a lot of people. There are a lot of encouragement. I look at a lot of polls.
So Benny Tai's civic nomination you think is meaningless?
I don't think it's very meaningful at all.
All right, we'll have to end it right there. Thank you very much. Good evening.